Hey everybody, this video is part of our full-length The Onside Kick podcast. You can find that on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes. You can pretty much find it anywhere, so we don't care where you listen. Just stick around and check it out.
Let's move on, though, Mark, into pick number 11. And this one, I'm gonna start with this one. This one's a little bit interesting to me because the Saints, to me, have two needs that they can go for. They could go defensive back. It's going to be a cornerback, spoiler alert. Or they could go with a kind of like linebacker's a need, but I think like a pass rushing linebacker. So for me, I was looking at this and it was like, okay, it's either a cornerback or it's Derek Barnett or Takkarist McKinley. Like same kind of situation the Bengals were in. And I have them going with Clooney out of Ohio State, a guy who Riser wasn't in my one or my two. This is a guy where, Mark, you kind of hate these guys. Where it's like, oh, they had a good combine. Bam, put them in the mock draft.
They are. Yeah.
That's what this is. Like, he showed up for the combine, had good results. I think that the Saints will go cornerback here to kind of dip into that, in mind, that kind of cornerback field that isn't getting touched much. And then in their second first rounder say, you know what, if there's a pass rusher there, great. If not, we'll take BPA.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad route to go for sure. I definitely think, though, that, yes, you can say, hey, they need to go and grab themselves a outside linebacker, a guy who's going to pass rush. But when I think that of the Saints going and drafting a linebacker, I don't think that they could possibly pass up Foster, who for me is still on the board. Even though it's not like that number one need or exactly what you need, you're going to make it work. You're not going to pass up a guy at that talent level. You'll figure some things out. You will adjust the players you have. You will make someone put on some weight, lose some weight, whatever it might be. You're going to make it work out. I can't have the Saints passing on a guy like Reuben Foster.
Yeah, and I mean, another guy that I forgot to kind of mention is Haason Reddick. And the reason why is we kind of, in our kind of discussion between him and Foster, I feel like I mentioned him to the Saints a lot, but I feel like cornerback's really where they're going to go right here. Let's move on, though. Another pick number 2, one of the 3 teams to finally reach their second pick in the first round, Cleveland Browns. You had them go Myles Garrett with myself at number 1.
Yep.
Who are they taking 12th overall?
Well, now it's time for them to go get that wide receiver that they need. And I want them to go with Mike Williams. You know, this is definitely a good option for whoever that quarterback is.
He's just going to put on a darker shade of orange?
Yeah, it's a little easier. Although, still a lighter shade of orange than it has previously been in previous years.
Well, it's darker than the Clemson orange is what I'm saying.
But not as dark as previous Cleveland Browns orange. It's just a little bit lighter. This is just, to me, I mean, I don't necessarily care who that quarterback is. You know, if it's Brock the Cock, if it's Kessler out there, or, you know, some scrub they pick up off the street. They need a weapon to throw the ball to. You absolutely need that. I mean, back when the Browns had a surprise last year with Terrell Pryor, that was actually looking like, hey, this offense could turn into something. Getting a guy like Mike Williams in that offense is going to be huge. It's going to be night and day. This has really good potential for the Cleveland Browns, and those fans can actually get excited about something for once.
This is exactly what the Browns wanted. Because although I liked Carson Wentz last year, the Browns weren't completely sold on him. They traded. They got the second pick. I can understand with yours. It's like, are you going to, like, Mitchell's off the board, Deshaun's off the board. Are you really going to take Kaiser this high?
Yeah.
No. Are you going to take Mahomes this high? No. It ain't going to happen. For me, I have yet to see a quarterback go off the board. So in my situation, it's a perfect one for Deshaun Watson to be taken off the board, go to the Cleveland Browns, and then it's basically how I would do it is open competition between him and Kessler to win the job. And if he loses the job, okay, you can kind of sit back, learn from, not learn from Cody Kessler, but you're the backup and you can learn the offense. Kind of like, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo never played day 1. I know he was sitting behind Tom Brady.
Or day 2, or day 3, or day 4.
But it's one of those things. Aaron Rodgers never started day 1. Jared Goff never started day one. That might be a bad example, but I threw it out there just to say it, just to throw it out there.
Paxton Lynch still isn't starting either.
Paxton Lynch still isn't. Did he started one game, didn't he?
Yeah.
He started one game.
It was not impressive.
No, it was not at all. But I feel like the Browns here take that quarterback mainly because nobody's gone, and they're probably like, well, fuck it. We got Myles Garrett. We can take Deshaun Watson and have our cake and maybe eat it too. Let's move on to the Cardinals, though. Who are they taking in your mind?
For me, I want them to go with a corner that's available, and we're talking about this riser out of Ohio State, Conley here. I just think that this will be a good fit. I know that I'm the skeptic of the combine risers. I like the guys that I already knew about before this guy who just shows up out of nowhere. But I definitely think this will be a good option.
It's John Ross, who you knew about, and he runs a amazing 40.
Yeah, but I initially liked him. He started to drop off, then he came right the fuck back, and he was back immediately. I just think that this will be good for the Cardinals. I mean, when the Cardinals were their best, they had this awesome defense that nobody could throw the ball on. And they still have parts of that, but needs to kind of, get worked up a little bit, back to shape.
This is another Saints situation to me, or not Saints situation. Earlier in the podcast, I can't remember who it was, but I think
Titans,
the Jets.
maybe?
Jets, that's who it was. This is a Jets situation to me because in both our mock drafts so far, Reuben Foster's off the board. That'd be the perfect pick for them. Take Reuben Foster, boom. There's your inside linebacker, your biggest need. But really, to me, it comes down to Mitchell Trubisky versus the next top corner in my mind, which in my mock draft is Marlon Humphrey. And it's one of those where it's like, I think the Cardinals sit there and go, we can take a cornerback later in the draft, still get somebody that obviously isn't going to be like a plug-in at number 2, but could maybe surprise us and add some depth to that cornerback position. They might look at it and go, you know what? 2 quarterbacks are going off the board, boom, boom, 12, 13, because we're going to take Mitchell Trubisky and let him sit behind Carson Palmer year 1. Because that's the big thing. When I was watching NFL Live, they had Todd McShay on.
Yeah.
When I went home during my lunch today at work, and they were talking, they had him on, they were doing these comparisons. And Trubisky's comparison was to what they did was his height, his hand size, his arm length, and then his either the cone drill or the shuttle. And his times and measurements were almost spot on to Colin Kaepernick. And I want to say Colin Kaepernick was the one. And one of the big things Todd McShay mentioned with them is this is a guy that you kind of want to sit there. You don't want to throw him into the fire right away. The Cardinals can do that. They can draft him. They can say, well, you're sitting because obviously you're not going to start
healthy.
Over a healthy Carson Palmer. And I think they go, well, you know what? Foster's off the board. We can get a corner later. Let's go Trubisky because we're going to be well after the run of quarterbacks that are going to go in the second round in my mind. But what about the Eagles who... This is a sore spot for me, Mark, because this pick should have been purple and gold. Should have been.
It's not. It's definitely not. And you guys would like the guy who I have available right now, too, that I'm going to have the Eagles take. I want them to take Leonard Fournette because he's there.
I don't know if we would have drafted him because we got Latavius Murray, but yeah, I would have loved it.
You're going to pass on Leonard Fournette? No. I know you, Ricky. I know you love those running backs. You're not going to pass on any of them.
Could you imagine a 1-2-3 punch of Latavius Murray, Leonard Fournette, and then Jerick McKinnon?
Doesn't matter who your quarterback is anymore. Doesn't matter that you don't have wide receivers to catch the ball.
Sorry, Matt Asiata, you're out of a job.
You're running all day, every day. You're running first, second, third down. But I just, for the Eagles, I mean, this would be great. This would be huge. I mean, it would be surprising that he's still on the board. We didn't do any trades. We usually agree that we're not doing trades.
And I usually save trades to like my 5.0 if I do a 5.0.
Yeah, when you get a little bored and you want to do something fun. Yeah. But I think that, someone would probably trade up and grab him if they could because Leonard Fournette has so much star potential for the NFL. But yeah, the Eagles can't pass up on him.
I'm going to have the Eagles I've got them going with a pass rusher in Derek Barnett. And the reason why it was either Barnett or it was either the cornerback. And it's the same thing. I think a lot of teams are going to look at the cornerbacks when we get to this middle range and go, yep, you know what? I can find this later. Let me go with a pass rusher. Let me go with a quarterback. Let me go with something that I can't find later, or I can't find something later that is just serviceable, like what I have right now. Yeah. So I have him going with Derek Barnett, get that pass rusher, push that kind of cornerback coin or that can, kick it down the road, down the curb, and we will fix that in a future pick in this draft. The Colts. I want to move on to them because me and you, looking at our mock drafts, we've got them going similar. And the biggest thing that I've said about the Colts, ever since, I want to say my mock draft, I went away from this. Ever since 2.0, I have been on this string. Go defense, get a pass rusher, basically get the best pass rusher available. And I'm going with Takkarist McKinley here. And it's interesting that I'm going with him over Haason Reddick. I think either or could work. I just think that the Colts would go with McKinley over Reddick. Even though in my mind I would probably maybe go with the vice versa.
Yeah, and I disagree because I do have him taking Reddick here. I just think it's, I mean, he's a phenomenal player, really good addition to this defense. The trouble for the Colts is Andrew Luck is amazing, and they have all these little parts here and there that should be better than they have been performing. The problem for the Colts is just that, you know, they don't have enough of a supporting cast. I mean, it's the classic Colts issue. You know, they had the same thing with Peyton Manning when towards the end of his time in Indianapolis. It's just they're not surrounding him around the right stuff, and I would love them to take some offensive linemen, and I kind of struggled to have them not because Andrew Luck doesn't get enough time out there. That's really what the biggest issue, and he's one of those guys where if you give him the time, he will win you games. He will carve defenses up.
Well, and another thing I wanted to mention is there's like this insane stat that if the Colts, if their opponents score 19 or less points, the record in games for Andrew Luck is phenomenal. It's like an amazingly winning record. I'm not even going to try to butcher the number, but it's like just keep opponents under 20 points and you win.
And that's why the Colts also have a pretty bad record against good teams. They have a bad record against winning teams because their defense has not been able to stop those teams from scoring. That's really what it's kind of come down to for them. And that's the reason why I do kind of give them the defensive player over the offensive line, you know, because Andrew Luck has, I hate to say it, but he's done enough so far to survive. With a couple injuries, but he's done enough to survive. Yeah, you got to do something about that defense.
And you know what, Mark? People are going to hate me for this. I am sitting here while you are talking, and I'm looking at my mock draft going, Ricky, you are one piece of work. You are an idiot. I'm making a change. Change on the fly.
All right.
I'm agreeing with you. Haason Reddick to the Colts.
I like it.
I'm switching Haason Reddick. I'm just going to have McKinley go a little bit later to a team where Haason Reddick would have went because I really don't think McKinley will go in these next picks that we've got coming up. Let's move on, though. Yep. The Ravens and...
Oh, this is a good one.
Both me and you agree. John Ross going to the Ravens.
It's a good pick. I mean, I would just love to have them get that speedster who can just burn
like
some
they
people.
Used to have with Torrey Smith.
Right? I mean, I think we talked about this when we were talking about the first-round wide receivers last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And, yeah, we both agreed that, hell, this is such a good fit for John Ross because... he needs that strong arm quarterback, a guy like Joe Flacco to say, all right, here's what you do. You see the end zone? Yeah, get to it.
And I mean, Flacco used to have that, like I said, with Torrey Smith. They've got Mike Wallace. Perriman hasn't been exactly what we have hoped from him.
He's been fine.
But it's one of those things where I feel like neither of those guys are going to fit what John Ross would bring, which is fucking them going deep, just... turn on
Unleash
the Jets.
The dragon.
Just run in a straight line. Joe Flacco will hit you. He'll be fine. He'll hit you for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Really, that's what it comes down to in this one, though, is just getting that quickest wide receiver. Then moving on to the Redskins. And with this one, it's interesting because I wanted them. I really, really, really wanted them to go with Malik McDowell, the defensive tackle from Michigan State. That's one of their big needs. They need a guy right in the center that they didn't get last year that I thought they should have get it. Well, this year I think that they're going to pass that up again. I have them going with Christian McCaffrey from Stanford. The running back position to me, it's not one of those huge needs, but it's one where I look at where I'm not satisfied in Rob Kelly. I'm not satisfied in Thompson. Matt Jones, I know you got fantasy owners, but get him out of here. I'm not satisfied with you either. I think Christian McCaffrey could be infused into this running back core, and really he can be used in kind of a dual situation where he could either be a running back or let's put him in the slot. Let's kind of use him as an offensive weapon type of a player and just get him the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having him go running back. Who do you got him going with?
Well, I'm going to have him going with Derek Barnett here. Having this this pass rusher, this defensive end, whatever you want to call him here, it's going to definitely be useful. And I know that the Redskins lost pieces on the offense, and they could use some help in this situation. But a guy who gets the production like Barnett does is going to be a huge addition to this division that's always close. The division's always going to be competitive. You have Kirk Cousins who, sure, like I just said, you let some of his pieces go, but he's going to produce. He is going to push the ball forward. He has success on his own. I think that this defense, improving that, is going to make his life a lot easier. And you need somebody who's going to hit, Carson Wentz, who's going to hit Eli Manning, who's going to hit Dak Prescott. You need that guy who's going to get back there and make it happen.
Well, and this has to be the year because really, if they don't really impress Kirk Cousins, he's gone at the end of this year because I don't see them forking up the huge amount of dough that you would need to franchise tag him a third time. Let's move on to the Titans. The second team with their second pick in the first round. You had them going with Corey Davis like myself at pick number 5. Who are they taking at 18?
Well, now I'm going to have them go with McKinley. And sure, I think we talked earlier about how the cornerback position is definitely a big need for them. But I do think that the way the draft has gone so far, they probably feel like they can get that. What they can't get later is going to be one of these guys on the line, one of these pass rushers, one of these guys to create havoc. And those guys have been going quick. And it's something that's really important to the NFL right now that I can't see the Titans wanting to pass that up as much as they would be willing to say, all right, we got number 1 need, which is wide receiver. I think we can get a corner in the second round.
See, I'm sticking right to plan. What did I say when we got to pick number 5?
Receiver and corner.
Receiver, corner, and they're going to go with Humphrey, Marlon Humphrey. And what it's going to be is that's it. You know what? Best cornerback off the board. He's the best cornerback. It's as easy as that. I know what you're saying. Maybe, let's go with this. We can get a corner later. Nuh-uh. The only thing that would trump cornerback in this situation is if Reuben Foster had somehow fall into this pick. If Reuben Foster's here by some miracle, take him. Otherwise, receiver with 5, cornerback with 18. Last 2 picks of this segment on YouTube. We're going to keep rolling, though, on Blog Talk Radio. Let's go on. The Bucs.
Yeah.
I'm going O.J. Howard here. I think tight end, one of the biggest needs for this team. They need another weapon for Jameis Winston to throw to. I know a lot of people might disagree with me there, but I think if O.J. Howard's there when the Bucs come around at 19, they snatch him up, they gobble him up, and they're happy because some people think he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah, some people do. I am not one of them, but I want the Bucs to go with Tre'Davious White, which might surprise some people, but I really like what White can do out there as a corner, how he can stick with a wide receiver. I mean, that's going to be one of the most valuable things you can get out of a corner is a guy who will be there, who will not eventually get burned, who will not let that guy eventually move around enough to where you lose him. He's got tons of starting experience. He's that guy who can walk into your your defense and already feel like he's been there and make that difference. And I think that that's going to be a huge addition. My big problem for the Bucs, when they were rolling was, sure, that offense was good, but that defense lets teams score too many points. And having a guy who can be glue to a wide receiver, that's going to be a huge addition for the Bucs.
Yeah, the one guy that I'm going to say could go here, either if O.J. Howard is off the board or it's really between him and OJ is one of the things that the Bucs do need is a defensive lineman. Malik McDowell out of Michigan State. I've mentioned him before. He could be thought of here, but I'm going to go offense over defense for the Bucs. Let's round up the top 20, Mark.
Yep.
The Denver Broncos. Who you got the Broncos going with?
Big need right here, Forrest Lamp. I mean, you got to do something.
Big need right here, offensive guard. Woo! How sexy is that?
It is sexy as hell, especially when your quarterback's not hurt. I mean, this is going to be a big addition because of what I just said. Quarterback not being hurt. You got to protect whoever it is. Paxton Lynch, Trevor Siemian, Jay Cutler comes back to Denver.
Jay Cutler.
Whatever it's going to be, you got to protect that guy.
If that happens, do we pull out the crybabies again? The Cutler crybabies?
I don't think people put him away. I don't think they put him away at all.
Them and their Tebow jerseys, right? Nobody put him away. I'm going to go offensive line, but I'm going to go a different position. I'm going offensive tackle. I'm going Garrett Bolles out of Utah. And the reason why is I think that the tackle position is just a little bit more of a need than the guard position. And also with me, I have yet to have an offensive lineman come off the board. This is really late. And when you look at Bolles, he's the most athletic of the tackles in my mind in this class, which I think the Broncos would like. It's either going to be Bolles or Ramczyk here, but I really, 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 really think that they will go with Bolles here to kind of just wrap everything up and just kind of solidify that offensive line for them.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and don't worry, there is plenty more where that came from. You guys can check it out right over here. Click that video, start watching it, and just stick around on Most Valuable Podcasts.